Thank you for joining us for today's session on Realist. So now Realist is your tax and public record system. You see me right now as in Matrix, but there's a lot of different integration between Matrix and Realist as well. One of the things you might notice up here at the very top on the menu bar is there's an actual Realist button up here on your navigation bar. And if you click that, it will end up taking you directly into Realist, where we're going to present you with our dashboard, which is going to let you know exactly what's going on in your area where you've last been searching. In fact, where I've last been searching is in Santa Clara County, California. So I'll be sort of hanging around in that neighborhood, in that county. And Realist is a county-based system, by the way. You can search by county, and you'll need to select each county that you want to search in. But the other thing to keep in mind about Realist is you have access to every single county in the entire state of California, too. We'll get to more about that in just a little bit. In fact, if you do, well, I can get to it right now, change a little bit about where you're searching. Again, as you can see, from Alameda all the way down to Yuba, we've got every single county available for you. The thing to know about Realist is that you actually have access to every single property in the entire state of California, not just properties that have been listed. So if you want to switch different counties or you want to search in multiple counties, you can add those multiple counties if you'd like to. So for example, if I want to add, San Francisco County and compare it to Santa Clara here, I can just hit apply. And now you'll see we're getting stats for both of these counties. You'll even see that we're going to get things like the average sale price, the change in sales activity month over month. So you've got lots of great stats. The whole idea behind Realist is it's really designed to position you as an expert in your field so you can understand what it is that's going on in the area that you're searching in or the people you're trying to market to. And then, you can follow up with them, in a meaningful manner, whether that's going to be sending out mailings, which we'll show you how to do in a little bit here, or really just understanding and imparting that knowledge to folks that you're helping buy houses or helping sell houses too. So you get lots of different stats, including how many sales have been closed over the past month and where those are trending, the months of inventory, the average days on market, among other things. Scrolling down a little bit lower, we're also going to give you some nice little things here that are going to help you get quick access to properties you may have saved in the past, searches you may have saved in the past, or properties you may have viewed recently. But also, most importantly here, we're going to give you property market insights, both from Cotality, where you can, again, take a look at all the different articles that we've written lately, our professionals have written. And you have access to information about properties, or I should say property data and what's going on in the industry from lots of other sources too, whether that be Inman or Housing Wire or Real Estate News or the Realty Times. So all these widgets are designed to, again, keep you organized and let you understand what's going on in your particular area at any given time. I'm going to switch from dashboard over to search right now, and we're going to move into doing a little bit of searching. And again, as you can see, I'm searching in Santa Clara County here. In fact, I'm going to change that county again, and I'm going to eliminate San Francisco. Again, do most of my searching here in Santa Clara County. Now, many people who come into Realist are really, when they're searching, just looking for information on one property. And they likely have an address, an owner name, a listing number, or a tax ID number to search by. So all of those things will help you to find one property where you're just trying to find the taxes or the owner history or something else. But under the My Search section, here is where you have a lot of tools where, again, if you're a power user, if you're someone who's looking to use Realist to find groups of properties that you may want to market to, this is your one-stop shop for that. Now, under this dropdown, under My Search, you've got a few different searches that are already available for you. For example, you can search by owner or seller or the property type. We've got a default search. We've even got a foreclosure and distress search, which I'll get to a little bit more later in today's demo too, where you can actually find properties that are in various stages of foreclosure. So again, Realist not only has property data for properties that have never been listed, we're also going to get foreclosure data. We're going to get mortgage data. We're going to get public record sale data. All information that's going to help you understand what's going on not only in a neighborhood, but what's going on with particular houses too. Now, you can create your own custom searches in Realist too, and here's where things get very creative, I should say. So if you go ahead and you click on Customize Search, here are all the different search attributes you can search by. So again, you can find groups of properties that suit your preferences, whether it's properties that are or are not owner occupied. That's one of our search attributes that's available. You can find properties based on where they're located if you want to. So if you're looking in a specific geographic area, this is a great way to search. You can look for properties that only have certain types of physical characteristics, whether they've been built recently, or they've got a certain number of bedrooms or bathrooms, or if they're properties of a certain type, if you're someone who likes to work with condos or single-family residential homes. These are all ways to search for properties too. You can look for properties based on some of the listing information that we bring in from Matrix and also display and make searchable here in Realist. You can search by taxes. You can search by properties that have certain exemptions if you'd like to. Properties that have sold during a certain time or for a certain amount. The aforementioned foreclosures, where again, you can look for properties in various foreclosure stages, or even see when properties are scheduled to go to auction too. So if you're someone who'd like to jump on properties that are maybe, willing or about to go to auction sometime soon, those are people who might want to sell their properties too. You can find those easily as overlays on the map, or even find them in a list too. You can even search by mortgage information if you'd like to as well. So if you want to find a property in a certain city with a certain number of bedrooms with exemptions, or properties that are in foreclosure, the world is kind of your oyster here when it comes to these searches. You'll know what you're looking for and what you're trying to find, and we pretty much have a search attribute for just about everything. I do see a question from Connie. Connie, we can search expired listings, absolutely. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. However, phone numbers, while we used to be able to search by phone numbers, old landlines, people have largely done away with those, and we're not able to search any longer by cell phone information. So that's not available, nor is email either. But we can search by the addresses of the property and, of course, the locations of where the people who own those properties are too. So we'll make it really easy for you to find potentially properties that are non-owner occupied, which can kind of help you out sometimes too. I'm going to show you some of the information that you'll find on an individual property detail report just by searching for a property here that I've got on 1182. I've got that in my house number, and Garfield on that street. So as I run this search, there's a host of different information that you're already going to get about this property before you even open a property detail report. You're going to see that there's a little red push pin associated with this property. That indicates that this property has been sold recently through your MLS. In fact, you can see here in the one line view that it was sold as recently as October of last year, so not too long ago. You'll also see we've got some photos for these properties too. By the way, when you come across properties that have a listing, whether it's expired, whether it's sold, whether it's pending, you're going to be able to click in a number of different places, starting with this little sold icon that I'm hovering over right now. And you'll be able to go back into Matrix, into the entire listing history for this property, where we've got 6 different sales on this property, or 6 different listings, I should say. So it closed, it was sold, another closed, there's an expired, and there's a couple more times when it's sold, and you can see how much it's sold for each and every time. So you get the details if you need them back in Matrix, but I'll also show you here in Realist in a property detail report where you can see the basics of this too. A similar link right here, that direct link to MLS, will also take you right back to that property as well. Let's open up a report and see some of the things that are available to you that are going to be not only searchable for other properties, but again, available on this home too. Now, if the property's been listed, you're going to see photos from the last time the property sold, of course, and you're also going to see a mixture of listing data and tax data up here in the property summary. Something that we've moved up here to the top to make it, again, a little bit more visible to you is something we call our sales score. And I'm going to be leaning into this pretty hard as we go through today's demo because, later on, I'll probably end up doing sending out some mailing labels to people. And I think that mailing that I'm going to do is going to have things to do with properties that are maybe that have a high propensity to sell in the near future. I might be doing, just listed or a just sold here. And I can find properties with a high propensity to sell when I'm trying to reach those folks too. So you can already right off the bat see who owns this property, and very quickly you'll be able to see the tax billing address, or the address that we find on the deed. This will let us know whether or not this property is owner occupied or not. If you're in an area where you've got a lot of absentee owners and you'd like to reach out to them to see if they want to sell or buy properties in the area, it's very nice to have that search attribute available to you to be able to tell whether or not a property is or is not owner occupied. And you'll even be able to see where that owner is located too, whether it be in the same city, same state, or potentially even a different country or a different state too. So again, we throw a lot of data at you in Realist, but one of the things that we're trying to do now with that data is start to give you more information and more analytics about what's going on with all that data. We don't want you to have to crunch the numbers. We want to show you what's going on in an area. So you can see, for example, the median home value in a particular neighborhood, or whether or not it's a family-friendly area, or whether there's a high rate of crime, how the schools are in the neighborhood too, and where the trends are going in terms of prices for these properties too. So these will give you kind of nice insights, and I'll even show you how we can dig even deeper into these things as we get a little further into Realist. Now, there's lots of, again, basic tax information, like your school district, your tax ID numbers, 3 years worth of taxes and assessments, and all of those things. Taxes and assessments, nice to know. Good to be able to impart knowledge to your clients as to how much your taxes or assessments going up every year. What are we going to be paying in taxes? So good information to have here too. And then, of course, all the physical characteristics on the home too. One of the things you'll notice here in the physical characteristics section is that where there are discrepancies, where we're getting properties that are listed through the MLS, yet we're also getting information from the tax roll, in this case, Santa Clara County, where there are discrepancies, you'll see that we'll spell those out for you. You'll see that according to the county, it's a one-story home. According to the agent, it's a two-story home. In fact, if I go back to these pictures. Let's open these pictures. That'll actually tell you the story. But it is kind of interesting that sometimes you do get these discrepancies where the agent will say one thing about a property, and of course, the tax roll may say a completely different thing about the property. Of course, I picked a property that's completely obscured, so it does look like it might just be a one-story home. No, it is 2 stories, as you can see. So maybe an error made by the county there, but it's nice that we're getting the information from two different sources, so you can also always be sure that you're getting, kind of the full picture of these properties too. Here's that sell score indicator again. So again, this is a score that we place on a property from 0 to 1,000. 0 being the lowest, 1,000 being the highest, and it indicates the relative likelihood that a property is going to be listed for sale in the next 6 months. We're going to utilize this a little bit more in a search, as I mentioned. We also place estimated values on properties. So if you're reaching out to a client trying to list a property, considering having somebody buy this property, you've got a good idea of what we think this property is worth here at CoreLogic. Now, we don't just give you this value and let you run with it and just say, good luck. We tell you exactly how well we think that price is going to fare when it comes to that property selling in the near future. So we give you this confidence score and this forecast standard deviation, which are pretty well explained down here at the very bottom in the fine print. But just to sort of read through it in layman's terms, we think there's a 93% chance this property is going to sell between plus or minus 8% of right around $3 million. And that's pretty darn good. You don't see confidence scores get too much higher than that. And you don't see forecast standard deviations get too much lower than that. While I'd love to tell you that we can tell you with 100% certainty what a property is going to sell for within the dollar, no one can do that. A property, of course, is worth whatever someone's going to pay for it. But what we use to get into this sort of level of data is we take your listing data. We take our public records data. We take a look at information around the neighborhood. Now, this is a well-populated neighborhood. Lots of properties been selling, lots of homogeneous properties to, similar properties. So we've got a good idea as to what this home's going to sell for. But in many cases, you may see properties that are a little bit more unique, maybe in an area where there aren't so many sales, or an area where there aren't so many properties nearby, and we may have a harder time telling you with any certainty what that property might sell for. So we'll always let you know that confidence score, and we also calculate those values roughly about once every 2 or 3 weeks or so. Coming down a little bit lower, if you're someone who's into rentals, we'll let you know what this property could rent for on the high side, on the low side, and kind of the happy median right in the middle there too. So that's about what we think this property might rent for per month. You then get, of course, all the listing information that I showed you earlier within Matrix. So here are those 6 listings that we showed you. Again, another opportunity to link back into Matrix, but you're getting an idea what this property sold for, what it was listed for, how long it was on the market too. So again, with your own eyes, you can kind of see, how fast the market's moving just by looking at this property in and of itself. And then we move into our public record sale information here too, where we get information about not only the sales, but the mortgages that were taken out on these properties. And this is some good information if you want to do a little detective work as well. Now, one of the nice things about the sale history is we will pull up not only arm's length transactions, but we'll also pull up non-arm's length transactions, whether there's a quit claim deed, someone else's name is pulled off the deed, whether a property has been transferred into a trust, or if it is a normal arm's length transaction, we'll show you all of those. The other thing you can do is match up these sales with their mortgages as well. Now, we show mortgage originations, but again, with a little bit of creative thinking, you can kind of see there's a property taken out or a property purchased here in October of 2025, and about a $1.5 million mortgage was taken out on that same exact date. So we know that there's lots of equity in this home right now, and that's good information to have about this owner if you're someone who might be reaching out to them to see if they want to sell this home or buy other homes too. Now, again, you got some good ideas as to what the mortgage rates were around that time. So if someone's making regular payments, you'd only have to do a little bit of calculations to kind of figure out what kind of equity someone might have in that home. And then moving down a little bit lower, we've got a couple of different maps that just let you know exactly where the property is located and what the lot dimensions are too. So I'd say some of the most important stuff that's really going to let you have some inside information about all these properties are going to be that mortgage history, that sales history, and also these rental trends, the estimated value, and the sales score indicator. If you're looking to market to properties, having that type of knowledge is going to be really helpful for you. There's a lot of other reports to show you, but I'm going to try and focus on more of the marketing ones, ones that are maybe going to be helpful to you so you can understand what's going on in a neighborhood. And my next one is market trends. It looks a lot like what I showed you on the dashboard, except now what we're looking at is a much smaller area, just the zip code where this property is located rather than the entire county. In fact, one of the things that you can do is you can go back, we're looking at March of 2026 right now, but you can go back as many months or years as you want and look at trends in these neighborhoods or zip codes by month too. So it's going to be very easy for you to see where these trends are going yet again. So we've got some tabular statistics for you up here too, similar to what I showed you before, average days on market, total active listings, average sale price, so you know what kind of inventory you're looking at. And then what you'll also notice is we've got these interactive charts down here at the bottom. And many of them include 3 geographic areas where the property is located. That's going to be the county, the city, and the zip code. And then we're also going to give you the opportunity to not only look at stats for properties that were listed through MLS listings, but we're also going to let you look at stats for all properties, whether or not they sold through the MLS or not. So you can always toggle back and forth between these. And by the way, all of these reports I'm showing you are printable and sendable to your own clients too. So you can either keep this information to yourself and look like you are the expert, or you can share it with them and show them exactly where you got all this information too. So things like average sale to original list price ratio, great when you're trying to set a listing price for a particular property. You know that you're going to get about 98% of that ask price in most cases over the past year or so. Average price per square foot, number of sales, and even change in sales activity are all available for you here too. And don't forget, if you want to look at other months, if I want to go back to February and see what was going on then, you're going to see that maybe a little bit less sales. Of course, we're all kind of in that area where we're going to start ramping up and selling some more properties around this time of year. But you can, again, look at any of these stats that you want to. Some other information, and again, these are going to be all the free reports that are available for you by themselves, like our neighborhood profile report, are going to give you access to things like demographics. So now you're going to get to understand whether or not this is an area of high growth or whether it isn't. I'm going to show you in a minute, there are some extra reports. They do cost a little bit more, but they do give you a much deeper insight than what I'm showing you here in our market trends and neighborhood profile to kind of let you dig a little bit deeper into some of these neighborhoods too. So you got your population distribution by age, your average household size. So you know if there's a lot of families in this neighborhood and what the age of the parents are for the most part in these neighborhoods too. Things like marital status, housing stats like the median year built, what people are paying in rents for properties, all helpful information that give you a holistic view of what's going on in this neighborhood. Same thing here with where do people work? What sort of household income do they have as well? Even what sort of commute method and what sort of education level they've attained. So you know if it's an educated populace or maybe not as much. And that'll help you understand what's going on in this neighborhood too. Is it blue collar? Is it white collar? We've got more information about schools and businesses. I think that's more helpful maybe for your individuals who are looking to purchase these properties. But I really did want to show you some of that demographic information up there at the top too. Now, we've got lots of information on hazards and risks. That's a report I always recommend people take a look at. I don't know if it's necessarily too tied into marketing at the moment. I mean, you may have some people who may have some needs for insurance. I mean, I can download a sample version of this report and kind of show you what it looks like. And what you'll see is for example, and this is just a sample report, not one for this particular property, but you're going to understand, in an area like yours, is there an earthquake risk score? These are important things. You're not going to have a high tornado or hurricane or straight line wind score in these areas, but wildfire, absolutely. Distance to nearest fire station, these are all things that are potentially helpful for people that might need extra insurance in many cases. We've got your crime risk. Again, we've got your earthquake risk. Everything I showed you up top is a bit of a summary. We then break it down into these individual reports here too. Again, not too many wind things that we're going to have you worrying about in your area, but definitely wildfire risks, as I mentioned, and understanding, again, things like distance to recent burns, if there have been any. Also, again, distance to your nearest fire station. All great information, again, we can give you here in some of these sort of pay-to-play reports, as I wanted to show you too. While we're on the subject of these pay-to-play reports, I will say that there are some really good ones here under our premium neighborhood reports. If you really want to understand what's going on in a neighborhood, some of the ones that I suggest are the trends and forecasts, and also the economics and the demographics too. Even the real estate is great too. And if you've got clients who have kids, you may even want to download the school data ones too. So starting out with neighborhood trends and forecasts, again, this is just a sample report, not related to the property I'm looking at right now. But what I want to point out is we've got these very small, specifically drawn individual neighborhoods, not a zip code, not a large county, but a neighborhood made up of properties that are extremely similar. So we're getting into a nice, good place. This is a great place, if you ask me, to figure out what's going on with sale prices or just, values in a property. So we'll show you exactly where sale prices have come and where we anticipate them going in some of these charts. Further down, we'll actually show you not only those charts, but we'll show you what's going on, how homes are appreciating since the last 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, where we see them forecasting, and how that's going to compare to the metro area where this property is located and the rest of the United States as a whole too. So you can see whether or not your particular area is outperforming the metro area where you live, or again, the entire United States too. We're not only going to tell you what these values are, we're going to show you what's driving these values too. Is crime low? Is school performance high? Is the regional housing market looking good? Maybe the neighborhood look and feel isn't so great, or the real estate values nearby are dragging the prices down on these properties. So we'll let you know what the pros and cons are in all these cases too. The other things that are going to be strong drivers of home appreciation or depreciation are what kind of jobs are there nearby. Also, who owns a property? Who rents? Are those things on the uptick or are those things on the decline? What's the average rent in this neighborhood? Vacancy trends too. And we'll again show you those crime trends and show you whether it's flat, declining, or increasing too. We'll show you educational trends. The higher the education, the better the schools are doing in the area, the higher the values of most of these homes too. Have incomes changed in the area? You're getting the idea that we have just got a host of information here that's going to let you know not only what's going on actively in your neighborhood, but what the history was, what the future is, and now you've got all the data to back up exactly why these properties are appreciating or depreciating the way they are. So I love that one. That's one of my favorites. Don't forget, that is the neighborhood trends and forecasts. I think another good one is your neighborhood real estate data report too. Again, we're looking at that same granular area. Now you're also going to get an AI generated sort of overview. We'll let you know what's going on in this neighborhood. Is it near a college? Is it near a high school? Is it what type of owners are there in this neighborhood? How many people have kids? How many don't? Is it mostly young professionals? Is it mostly families with older children? You'll find all that out in that sort of blurb up there at the top. Then you're going to get information about median home value, median real estate taxes. Again, as you can see, I showed you a lot of free versions of a sort of a 30,000 foot view of a lot of this data, but now we're really showing you how we arrive at a lot of these numbers that we give you in Realist in these reports here that you do have to pay a little bit extra for. So you'll see what the rental market is in the area. If you've got people who are looking to buy rental properties and invest in a neighborhood, this is an invaluable report. You're going to let them know what rents are. You're going to let them know what kind of yield they're going to get through those rents too. And we'll let you know information about the neighborhood, the housing market details. Is it mostly single family? Is it mostly 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms? And how old are these properties too? So those are some of the ones that I think give a lot of the insight into these properties. I will point out there are a couple of other reports too. The neighborhood public school data, really just letting you know how the schools are doing in a specific area and also how they compare to the entire country and also your entire state too. So good information if you've got people who are looking to potentially have kids in those neighborhoods too. And then the last one is going to be economics and demographics. If you want to, again, get a good idea of the people, the diversity, what kind of neighborhood you're looking at here, again, how people get to work, what sort of jobs they work, these are all going to be great reports for that too. If you download all 4 of these reports for a particular neighborhood, I guarantee you, you're going to have your finger on the pulse of the real estate market too. All right, let's move out of those reports. There's also a building permits report. Highly recommend that one, although it's not really marketing oriented. I like the fact that you can walk into a house, see that there has been some upgrades made to that property, come back here to Realist and be able to see whether or not those upgrades that were made were actually permitted properly. That's always a good one to have here too. But I'm going to hit the back button and I'm going to spend some time here now on the maps. One of the things I let you know that I was going to do, particularly when we're talking about marketing, is I'm going to create a mailing list right now. So there's a few things that you can do. If you just sold this property here, let's just say I'm going to set up a hypothetical situation where I just sold this home and I'm a new realtor in this neighborhood and I want to start drumming up some more business in this neighborhood. I just sold this home for $3 million. I don't know about you. I love selling $3 million homes. That sounds like money in my pocket. I'm not a realtor, but it would be money in my pocket. But what you can do here is you can find people in this neighborhood, whether or not you want to use some of these physical characteristics to search, whether it's a subdivision where we've got a pick list for you, whether it's a particular city or a particular zip code. But what I like to do is I like to get very small into these neighborhoods in particular, and I like to use some of our drawing tools up here at the very top too. So as I draw some shapes up here on this property, I'm going to draw a little polygon here. And I'm going to say, really quickly, actually, before I even get into this, let me show you another very cool thing that I kind of like to use. Forgot we even had this. Before I start even drawing my shapes. For example, I want to learn a little bit more about this neighborhood, let's just say. And a very easy way to do that is to load up these premium map features. It's indicated by this little window pane. You'll see it up here on your map. You'll also see it here in your search too. You won't see it, by the way, in quick search, but you will see it in my search. And what you can do is get a feel for what's going on in this neighborhood. I want to send out this information, this mailing to single family residential homes. So let's go to these county land use codes. I'll be able to find my residential areas. And now quickly I can see there's a main street nearby. That's an area that I wouldn't necessarily want to draw in and start, sending out mailings to commercial properties. Unless you're a commercial realtor, in which case this would be an excellent place to center in your mailing if you want to. So I'm going to take a look at only residential. So now I know a general neighborhood that I want to kind of send my property mailings to. Again, home equity. You may even get information about what sort of equity people have in their homes in many cases, although that's a tough one to calculate sometimes. Another one you can see is last sale price. We'll get information about the last sale price on all these properties. Another thing I want to point out is almost everything you see here in this dropdown, whether it's mortgage age, mortgage rate, It's all information that if you drill down into a property detail report that I showed you earlier, you're going to find this information. But this gives you a really good 30,000 foot view of what's going on in this neighborhood. So most people here look like they only have mortgages that are, between 0 to 5 or 5 to 10 years old. Some of these people that have some of their older mortgages, they may have locked in, a long time ago and gotten a low mortgage rate. People who have only had a mortgage for the last 5 years, unless you locked in during COVID, could have a relatively high mortgage rate. Again, great information to have, and you're going to be able to kind of see it parcel by parcel here, but also kind of in a neighborhood kind of look too. How many homes are owner occupied? If you're somebody who might be looking to market to people who have homes that they don't live in full time. You can find that in this general area, as you can see, now remember, this was my commercial area over here. So of course, no one's living in these properties, but you can see this neighborhood is generally owner occupied. There's a few kind of interspersed here and there, but you might find some other neighborhoods where there are lots of absentee owners and you might want to market to them too. So this is a great way to find them. You can find out how long people own their homes, another great indicator as to whether or not people might be looking to list their property with you in the near future, too. A few others are going to be what are the values of these homes? And then, of course, we've got our rent score. And let me just load up our sales score one time so you can see, again, there are pockets of areas where we think maybe these people won't necessarily be listing their property at any point in the near future. But there are some areas with the darker blues and the lighter blues where maybe people might be a little bit more likely to be listing their properties too. With that said, once you've overlaid all that information, now you've got a real good idea as to whether or not or where you want to maybe send these letters that we're going to be sending out here in just a minute. So let's start drawing. Let's just draw a little neighborhood kind of around here. I won't go north of Los Gatos Creek. We know that on Lincoln Avenue, I'm starting to get kind of a lot more commercial. So let's not go too far there. Let's work our way down, over here to Coolidge Avenue, maybe come down a little bit further to Britain, and then come over here to this park. The whole idea behind this is, and I used my polygon drawing tool, you can draw a very unique shape, only targeting the people that you want to reach with these mailings too. Now, I need to come down here to my search, and I will take out my 1182 and my Garfield from my search, and I'm about to find in that shaded area 572 different people. Now, I could send out a mailing to all 572 of these people, but we know how much information I have at my fingertips to help me narrow down this mailing a little bit more. One of the things you could use is when's the last time somebody purchased this property? I could put in a sale date of, 10 years in the past. But something that I think is really going to be helpful for you and that I've been kind of leaning into today is your sales score. The sales score is going to take into account not only how long people have lived in these homes, but also what's going on in this neighborhood. Is there high turnover? Is there low turnover? And we've got that both from public records data and your MLS data that you share with us. So rather than limiting yourself and finding properties between a certain sales score, why wouldn't I look for properties with the highest sales score possible? And what I'll do here is I'll find properties that have a greater than sales score of 700. That's going to be really in that higher upper quarter of properties that we think might be willing to maybe sell in the next 6 months. I've now gone from over 500 properties down to just 81. All I need to do is hit that search button. And once I've done it, you can see all these properties. You're also very easy to tell right off the bat, hey, here's an expired listing. That one's here in purple. There was a question earlier about searching for expired listings. You absolutely can do that tabularly over here if you use some of our, if you noticed we had MLS status over here under some of our listing search attributes. But it's also very easy to find them when you see these ones in purple here. That's an expired listing. The rest have been sold at some point in the recent past through your MLS. And the ones in black here are properties that have never been sold through your MLS. So color coded right off the bat, not only on the map, but also down here on the grid. You can even organize them that way if you'd like. If you only want to find the ones that have sold or the ones that are expired, it's extremely easy just to sort them by clicking on the column header too. This gives you the opportunity again in this grid to take a look at a little bit more data surrounding these properties. Whether it's taxes or sale dates or sale prices, you may want to sort them in a certain way that may have you decide which of these you do or do not want to include in your mailings. Simply check or uncheck the ones that you like, and then work your way down to the bottom here of your grid. And I've got a little button called labels. And this is going to allow you to do your own marketing in-house if you want to. So when I click on labels, hopefully some of you have some Avery labels somewhere in the house, 5160s, 61s, 62s. You can see the various alignments. I'll choose my 3 across 10 downs. I can, again, address these in mixed case. That's usually the way I like to send them. I don't like to put all capitals or scream my addresses at people. But here's a very important one when it comes to things like doing a just sold mailing. If I'm doing a just sold mailing to people in this neighborhood, I don't want to use a property address. I could be finding empty homes. I could be finding renters. I want to find the people who are authorized to sell these homes, regardless of whether or not they live in them. The other thing that we'll do is we'll pull the current owners off the deeds. We can include foreign addresses. If you're doing a mailing like this, inevitably you're going to come across a landlord that owns multiple properties in that area, or maybe even a builder. We can eliminate those duplicate labels simply by you checking that box right there. We'll figure out who owns multiple properties and only generate one label for them for as many properties as they own. You can even create a custom label. I'm only doing 80 of these right now, so I could probably go in and clean them up if I wanted to. But if you're exporting an address list of 3,000 people, you may just want to put something generic in there. I've got the owner names. Don't forget those come up as trusts and LLCs sometimes. But you could put in those either no name, and you could just put in, hey, future home seller or dear neighbor. But you could also put in the owner name and then put in something like, or current resident. And that'll show up on every one of my labels now. Now, each and every one of you are allowed 7,500 exports per person per month. That's a lot. If you're using all your postage every single month, that's a heck of a postage budget there. I'll give you another hint too. I'm going to switch real fast back into Matrix. Don't forget in Matrix, there's a public record search. And one of the things that you can do in the public record search is you can actually also, when you go to print out mailing labels there. So you get extra mailing labels here in Matrix in addition to the ones we already have in Realist. So that's a little tip and trick that we don't show too many people, but you've got lots of abilities to export these. All right, now that I've chosen my properties here in Realist, I'm going to create these labels, and they'll open up in a .rtf file extension. It stands for rich text format. That means they're going to open up in Word. They're going to open up in WordPerfect. Here's one behind the scenes I already opened up earlier. But here is now my mailing list. All I did was draw shape, look for properties with a high propensity to sell, and here are all the people that I can now mail to. Now, almost everybody's in San Jose. We saw mostly owner-occupied properties, but there are some where some people here live in Mountain View, not too far away. They're probably renting that home and maybe living in their home in Mountain View. And there are some others too, but for the most part, I'm reaching the owners of these properties that live in these properties full time. Again, you will see that sometimes they do say things like trusts and other things like that. We also have the ability to scrub our database of addresses against the do not mail list. So if people have registered to ask to not receive solicitation from public records data, we can also filter those people out of our mailings too. All right, I'll close out of there. What I'll also show you is if you're not maybe a do-it-yourselfer, you don't want to be putting all those stamps on all 81 of those, people that we're mailing out to. You can also export this information into a spreadsheet too. And as you export, you can choose quick. By the way, quick will just export everything you see in the grid. Kind of what you see is what you get. Customize export will take you to an area where you can either build your own custom exports with over 135 fields of data, or we've got these templates preloaded for you. Owner property address and owner tax billing address. Owner tax billing address, as we know, are going to be the people who are authorized to sell these homes. So all the search attributes related to the owners and where they live and the ability to mail them have now been loaded up via this template. Of course, you can create your own templates too, add to this, take away from this, save it as your own template, and run it again and again if you want to. But I'll go ahead and I'll export these. These will open in a CSV format. And when I open up these, what you will see is all the same information that I just exported into a label is now able for me to be exported into a spreadsheet. And now if you want to use a mailing house and you want to send these off to someone else to create your mailing labels for you, this is exactly the format they're going to need them in. You're going to get the first name, last name, full name. You're going to get second owner names. You're going to get all the mailing information, whether it's in California, whether it's in Illinois, whether it's in Palo Alto or Santa Barbara. Whoever owns these properties will be able to send them to them. By the way, here's someone that is on that no mail list that I kind of told you about before. Clearly, I've got my filter turned off, so I'm allowing myself to export those, but you can filter those out if you're ever worried about those too. So that is exporting information out of Realist and into a spreadsheet or some labels too. Then let's scroll down a little bit further and just show you a couple other things that I think you might find interesting. I'm going to clear out all this information that we've got here. So I'll hit clear all, and then I'll clear out all my searches. There's lots of other overlays that you can look at that are going to give you insights into particular neighborhoods. So for example, if you want to look at specific school districts where these properties are located, you can actually see what elementary schools or what high schools these properties are zoned for. Very important information if you know some of these school districts might be a little bit more prestigious than others. Good information for you to have for your clients too. Those are some of the ones that I kind of like to show here under boundaries. You can also see what's going on with distressed properties in a particular area. I need to scroll in a little bit closer to see these. But if you, for example, want to see properties in pre-foreclosure or auction or that are currently owned by a bank, you can load them up as overlays on this map. And one of the things that is really nice to see if you live in this neighborhood, but not very nice if you're trying to demo something like I am right now, is there's not a lot of foreclosures in this neighborhood. I see a few things. Let's see. Here, for example, is a property that is owned by the bank. If I go ahead and click on that one, you can, that's actually a hotel complex there, so I can't find the specific property I'm looking for, but let's see if I can find a few. Here's a few. So for example, here's one that's a bank-owned sale. This is a property that was sold recently to a third party by some sort of real estate institution or bank. So it's the Baskers that own this property, or it's actually Mira and Jithan. I'll open up this report, and what you'll see is, again, a little bit of detective work you can do on this property, whether or not a property has maybe been purchased recently, maybe someone's going and looking to flip it potentially. A lot of times these types of properties have been involved in some sort of foreclosure in the past. I don't see that happening here, but you do see that this property was purchased from some sort of real estate group. And actually, boy, a tidy little profit was made on that property from 2020 to 2024. Again, lots of really interesting information that you get down here in that mortgage history, in that sales history as to what's going on with these properties too. Here's another one here in that's scheduled to go to auction in the near future. I wanted to find a few others first. Let's see. Here's one in pre-foreclosure. Let me see if I can get into the report for this particular one. I'll open up the report on this one, and you see we've got a foreclosure tab. This has been collected from a document. In this case, in California, it's a notice of default. So this is what we call pre-foreclosure. Someone's not paying their mortgage quite yet. And we've got all the information about the trustee information. We have got all the information about the mortgage that's not being paid. It's an adjustable rate mortgage that was taken out back in 2005. We've got links out to those documents, even an entire foreclosure history for this property too, whether it's been list pendants or release of list pendants, all available for you here. The ones that I think are most interesting when it comes to foreclosures as far as a marketing kind of a tool is I like to use the actual foreclosure search itself. And when I use that foreclosure search, I'll like to look for properties that are scheduled to go to auction in the near future. And again, what you might do here is find properties that are scheduled to go to auction after today's date. So if you're someone who might be interested in marketing to people whose properties are going to auction, let's put in a date of 04, oops, I got to put in a slash there, 09 and 2026. And how many properties are scheduled to go to auction after that date in Santa Clara County? 25. So now, not only are you going to be able to see where those properties are located, and of course, you've got all the address information for each and every one of them, But now if you want to dig a little bit deeper, you can actually get into the foreclosure tab for these properties that are scheduled to go to auction, and you can even see when and where these properties are scheduled to go to auction. In this case, May 20th on 191 First Street at 9 a.m. in San Jose. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that's your county courthouse, because that's usually where a lot of these things take place. And again, an entire foreclosure history for this property too. So those are some great ways to find individual properties and what's going on with them. Also, as we come down a little bit closer, we can also take a look at some trends on these areas too. So if you want to see, for example, the median sale price of properties by zip code in this particular area, extremely helpful here. Again, everything's above kind of $1 million, so maybe not as helpful as I thought it would be. But these are also by zip code. We can get even more granular with these, especially in an area like San Jose and San Francisco, our major population areas, where we can aggregate these by neighborhood as well. So this way you're going to start to see some of these pockets where, hey, there are some more affordable areas in San Jose, but you can see exactly where those properties are kind of, hitting over that $1 million range. Lots of other trends that we can show you too, both for single family residential, condo, or both types of properties. We can show you where properties are selling more than others too, sales activity. Again, it's going to be your warmer colors that are going to show you your higher levels of activity, and your cooler colors that are going to show you your lower levels of activity. But those are some great ways to, again, get that, again, sort of 30,000 foot view and understand exactly what's going on in these neighborhoods.
Check out our upcoming events. Scan the QR code or visit pro.mlslistings.com to register.
And don't forget to click that subscribe button on our MLS Listings YouTube page.